Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 162 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 162 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us this week. I hope you stay for a very long time. And if you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me on this journey. And I am so glad that you are here, and I hope you continue to stay for a very long time. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want to take a moment to kind of lay the foundation. I know for some of you who've listened to me for a while, you know this is kind of like a broken record, but it's so important for me to be foundational. I want to make sure that we all clearly know why we're here and what this space is all about. This space is really important to me. I really treat it like a house. I believe that this is a safe space, and I want our safe space to be built on two very important foundations, and that is clarity and love. Clarity is really straightforward. I just want to make sure that you understand that the Well Done Life podcast is a space that I created for women because I believe that women are the foundation of society. I think we need more spaces where we can learn, share, and grow together. So welcome. This is what this space is all about. It's all about us sharing our stories authentically so that we can hopefully inspire someone and encourage you on your journey to greatness, because there is greatness inside of you, and we need you. And the only way that we can really continue to move forward and do amazing things is if we all come together and pour into each other from a space of encouragement, love, support, and just good old-fashioned fun. So hopefully we do that here. And that leads me into my second foundation, one of the most important things to me, because I love love. And everything that we do in this space is going to be rooted in love. So love is at the core of everything here. And with that, I really like to make sure that every week I send you prayers. I really believe praying for each other is super important. I think that when two or more people come together in prayer, our prayers are magnified. So I like to believe that I'm not the only one out here sending good prayers and energy into the atmosphere. So I like to make sure that every week I send my prayers to you. This week, I am sending you prayers of peace. And with peace, I think that it is very important that you protect it. I want to make sure that you remind yourself that you are carving out time for yourself, because you deserve peace. You have to give yourself space. I mean, we're all out here living our best lives, outside, doing all the things and working and just trying to, make it through this year that is moving so quickly. Make sure you're carving out time to pour into you, time to regulate your mind and your body and your soul, because you are so important. I mean, so important. You are the foundation of your homes. You are just the mood setter, the change maker, the intention bringer. I mean, our energy carries so much weight. So we cannot afford to be in spaces where we do not feel at peace. So please make sure that you are carving out moments of peace for yourself. And this week, I am also sending you prayers of boundaries, because boundaries and peace kind of go hand in hand. And like I said, we're all out here doing all the things. Make sure that you are setting boundaries for yourself in regards to how you want to spend your time, who you want to spend your time with. Make sure that you are thinking about you. And I know that that sounds very selfish, but I'll be honest, you have to be selfish with you, because if you're not selfish with yourself, who's going to be selfish with you? You have to preserve who you are. You only have one body and one life. And so you want to make sure that you are preserving yourself. Make sure that you stop doing things that don't serve you or entertaining people who do not serve you. And I know that that always sounds easier said than done, but you are worth the time that it may take for you to set boundaries up for yourself. You are worth, making sure that you are in spaces where you feel comfortable, loved. And if you are in places where you are not feeling comfortable, you are not feeling loved, you are giving yourself the empathy and grace to move yourself out of those places, because you know that you are worth so much more, and your peace is priceless. So boundaries and peace definitely, like I said, go together. And then my final prayer is always going to be for abundance and love. I'm actually going to combine those two this week because, we talk so much about financial abundance, and I definitely want to make sure that you are abundant financially because I want you to be a blessing to yourself and to other people. But at the same time, I always like to focus on abundance in the spirit because there is only so much material stuff that you can buy. So make sure you are cultivating memories that allow you to have richness in your soul. The things that will feed you in the tough times, because we all go through tough times. I mean, just because we are on this path to healing doesn't make us exempt from it. A lot of times we are actually even more open to it because we are going into the world so open and you are receiving so many different things. It is possible that you can even fall prey more to being, under duress, under attack, whatever you would decide to call it. So you have to guard your energy, you have to guard your spirit, and you have to have things inside of you, those moments, those memories inside of you for when the times get tough to help remind you that this is temporal and that you can make it through because you've seen what it's like on the other side. So you want to make sure that you have those things. And especially as it relates to abundance, because we've all been down, we've all been up, and having those moments of life and how it shifts when you have things in your spirit that are beautiful, that remind you that you are capable and worthy and that you can do all things in spite of what it looks like now. It'll help continue to motivate you to keep going because that's going to be so important on your journey. So those are my prayers for you this week. I hope you know that you are loved and valued and thought of in the highest of regard and truly, 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 truly thought of in the best ways. So I'm here recording on Wednesday night. It is August the 16th at 10:19 p.m. It has been a super busy but great week, and I'm really excited to be with you guys today. Last week we had Ashley Simpo here talking about her journey as a writer, as a mother, as a woman, and I really want to thank everyone for their support. If you have not checked out I Am an Artist with Ashley Simpo, please make sure you check it out. I will have the link in the show note. It was a really wonderful conversation. It was an opportunity for me to fangirl because she is someone whose writing that I have followed, and I just felt honored to have her within this space. So I hope that you will support it and let me introduce her to you because she is an amazing queen. But we are back this week with another amazing young woman, another amazing queen. And this interview is definitely a little bit different because I actually recorded this episode with Sara Stanco, who is our guest for this week, last Sunday. And because Sarah's in Bali. And so, yes, we're going to talk about that. Yes, honey, you heard me right. She is in Bali. And we're going to talk about her journey and how she got there and what her plan is now. So if you will sit back, relax, grab a cup of water, grab a cup of wine, grab tea, whatever floats your boat, I will have Sara with you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So my name is Sara, and I am a former teacher in Canada who has quit her 9 to 5 and has been on a journey to coach women, to fall in love with themselves, to find their purpose, to attract abundance, freedom, love, joy, and all the goodness in the world.
I love it. And with this journey, we definitely have to talk about it because I'm sure everyone can probably hear it in the background too. There's like a little puppy in the background. So you got to tell us, and I guess we'll work our way there. But I'm going to say to everybody, this is definitely one of my first international interviews because Sara is in Bali right now.
I sure am.
Yes. I mean, she is definitely having her own, as I like to say, eat, pray, love journey. And we're going to definitely talk about that. But I guess first and foremost, from you, obviously going from being an educator, what was the moment that made you decide, you know what, this isn't for me and I need to do something different?
I would say that lockdown. lockdown was what really opened my eyes to what life could be. I was very fortunate in having no interruption really to my work with regards to salary. And, I was teaching online. It was wonderful. I had no commute time, which was great. I had time, on my lunch hour. If I wanted to take a nap, if I wanted to go for a walk, if I wanted to bake cookies, like I could. And so I got a taste of what life could be like when I wasn't running around pouring all of my energy into commuting, working, getting home exhausted. So I had all this time to be in nature, to do things that really brought me joy. And so I was like, hot damn, is this what is this what life could be like if I didn't have that? If I weren't so engrossed in my label, in my title of being a teacher, and 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 had more time for me. And so lockdown really gave me a taste of what life could be like if I lived it on my own terms. Then we went back, and I was okay with going back, but it was difficult too because I wasn't the same Sarah I was before lockdown. I loved teaching. I never found commuting to be a chore. I never, like, teaching was what I loved. It was my passion, but I also didn't separate Sarah from teaching. I was one and the same. So when I went back to teaching after lockdown and things were resuming as normal, the pace was quickening, and I was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to go back to the Sarah I was. I'm not the Sarah I was before. And so I started to think, okay, maybe teaching is not going to be where I retire like I had originally thought. But you know what? I love it still. Maybe I'll do it for 5 more years. And then 5 years kind of turned into 2 years, which then turned into 1 more, which turned into, I can't even finish this last year. It was a lot. And so I had to make the decision, and it was a tough decision, but I made it and have no regrets.
I think that's awesome. It was funny because when you were talking about it, I thought about how I feel like COVID lockdown like changed a lot of us. Um, I think a lot of us for the better because, like you said, you had a moment in time to sit down and actually pour into yourself. And I know for myself, I felt like I was on a journey to figure out, like, why wasn't I treating myself the way that I needed to before? Do you recall during that time as well why you decided, like, why wasn't I doing this before? Like, was there a realization point of anything that you had to let go of that helped you realize, like, that was holding me back from taking care of me the way that I needed to be taken care of?
Yes, everything you said resonated. And actually, as I connect with more and more women, a lot of them feel like me, where, yeah, lockdown really opened up my eyes to a much slower pace of life. So I guess to answer your question, it would have been difficult for me to be where I am now if it weren't for lockdown, because I can remove myself from a busy pace, sort of, but the world still continues its fast pace, and I have to live and move and be in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So lockdown was like a pause, a freeze, not just for me, but for the whole world, for our community. And so when I was spending time outside, everybody was spending time outside. We were all getting into nature, and that was beautiful to see. And I think so many of us think, man, is this what's been missing from my life? But not in a sense of, I should have been doing this sooner, but they could only be in this place where I am because the world allowed them to be in that place. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It totally does. Because I know for
Yeah.
myself, I think I felt I made a lot of the decisions that I used to make more so focused on the fact that I'm like, I got to pay bills. I have to be responsible. As you know, I take care of my mom and my sister who live with me too. Like, I felt the pressure of trying to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure my financial situation is solid for my family. And I think a lot of times I sacrificed my happiness and my mental well-being to make sure that my family was good, because I felt like that's what I needed to do in certain situations. And I think a lot of people feel that pressure. I was just wondering, did you find during that time as well, like there's just certain things that maybe you held on to, certain beliefs that you had back then that kind of kept you in that space of where you were versus lockdown saying, okay, it's not that serious. And here you are out and you can go and be okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's being part of the rat race that you don't even realize you're in until you have something like lockdown to open your eyes to what could be. So I don't know that there was, I mean, I loved being a teacher for so long and I loved, but yeah, there were moments where I was like, this is kind of tiring. I'm not a fan of writing report cards, or I'm not a fan of having to defend myself to parents. Like there were moments of teaching where I was like, I am not a fan of this. But I can relate to what you're saying about feeling the pressure to provide financially, because when I realized that teaching was no longer for me, then that fear came full throttle. Like and that's why I initially gave myself 10 years, because I thought I'm going to save some money before I decide what to do next, to give myself a bit of a buffer, a safety net. But then when that 10-year, 5-year, 3, 2, like it just kept shrinking, then the fears became even more crippling, because I liked teaching. I loved teaching, and then I liked it. And then I was like, I could do it, but I was only going to do it for a paycheck. But then when I was like, I want to move forward with my life, then it was like, oh shit, how am I going to get a paycheck? What's going to be my next thing? And so the pressure felt more. So yeah, it was like lockdown was wonderful. It opened up a lot of doors, but then when it opens up doors, you're like, okay, now the options, I didn't have options before. I didn't think about leaving teaching before. It was just like, I was in the rat race. I was doing it. I was enjoying myself. There were pockets, sure, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that I was going to leave teaching. I thought it was going to be where I retired.
And when you made that, the day that you made that decision, did you have any regret?
When I made the decision, it was not a one decision, like angels were singing in the background and like the sun came out of the clouds. Like it was no moment like that.
Right.
It was a buildup of a lot of different moments.
Okay.
I don't have regrets now. And actually, I can't say that I had regrets during, because it brought me to this point now that I love. And some moments I wasn't comfortable and I was like, oh, I hate this. I want this to be over. I want to fast forward. I don't want to be here anymore. But no, there were no regrets. There were difficult moments, difficult conversations. And to kind of answer your previous question about what beliefs did you have to let go of? Yeah, I had to let go of teaching is all I'm going to do. Teaching is all I'm good for. I'm not going to be able to sustain, to make a living doing anything else. What possibly could I offer the world outside of teaching? Those were the things that crept in.
Oh, I'm quite confident, because I think a lot of us feel that same way about what we do. And if you think about it, it's kind of like a lot of us, we're kind of trained to think that way in a way, because it's like you go to college in a lot of instances or whatever, you get this job, and a lot of times you feel like that is all you are ever meant to do. And you actually get made to believe like, okay, you're just supposed to do this until the end. Like when you retire, that's it, and there's nothing else. So I totally can see where that comes from. But when did you decide? Because obviously you made this decision. When did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to be comfortable being extremely uncomfortable?
Oof, I'm still working on it, but it's getting so much better. I would say, so in January, so Christmas break, I had 2 weeks off. I think most teachers do. And I flippin' loved those 2 weeks. I had also just moved. Yeah. I had just moved to a new school, actually, maybe a month prior. And it was a tough school. Like I'm talking kids that didn't really care about school, didn't care about learning, were really mean to each other, were just not interested in doing the work. I had to chase them for a lot of things. It was difficult for me because I had never experienced a classroom like that. And I don't blame them, right? Like, what 12-year-old wants to learn about like the 4 different types of rocks in the Earth's crust? Like, that is not relatable to them. And I'm talking like these kids are living in communities where there is drugs, gangs, sex trafficking. Like, they're coming to school from those kinds of communities. So I totally get it. And I don't blame them. But I think that the universe works in beautiful ways because the universe placed me in that difficult position to shake me up, to say, okay, woman, we're done here. Like, we're done with teaching. You've been saying now that this was going to be your last year, your last 2 years. Let's now make it so uncomfortable that you have to make the choice. So Christmas break came and I loved it. And I didn't want to go back. The Monday morning that I had to go back, I woke up, got dressed, had breakfast, and I couldn't make it out the door. I was like, I just can't. And I took a leave of absence at that time. And that was very stressful, but it was also the best time because I had time for myself. Right. I had time to think about what I wanted to do. And I knew that either this was going to be my last year, I was going to finish the year, or I was going to just say, I'm done now. Like, I'm just going to not even going to finish the year. I'm not going to push myself. That was a really hard decision to make, but I'm so glad that I made the decision to leave because, when you know, right. And you can delay it, but that's just fear. And I totally get it because you're thinking all the things that I was thinking. How am I going to make money? What can I do after? I have to support a family. I've got a mortgage. I've got car payments. What can I offer the world? All of those fears are coming in. But I truly believe that the universe rewards, not because you're a good person or a bad person, but rewards your energy of bravery. Like to say, I'm going to be true to myself and this is no longer for me. And I'm going to make the really hard decision and I'm going to leave. And the universe meets you like freaking 90% of the way when you make that really hard 10%. And that 10% is like, it may as well be 1,000% because that's how hard it is. Yeah. But once you take that step, that 10%, the universe is like whoosh, and just supports you in that decision.
I totally agree with that. And because I do feel like what you put out is what you get back. And obviously you in that moment made a decision. You're like, I'm going to be uncomfortable being uncomfortable. I'm ready to get out here and do my thing. How did you get to the point where you decided, you know what, I'm also going to travel the world while I'm doing my thing?
Oh man. Okay. So when I made the decision to leave teaching, that was March. So March 3rd was when I quit, which is so interesting because it was also, I celebrate my half birthday on March 3rd. Is like birthday? Okay. I do. It was, it was a university. Thank you. It was a joke in university and I just kind of like kept up with it. And so March 3rd was like, it was big. So it's the third month, the third day, 2023, like 6 months. I was like, okay, this is actually a pretty cool day, and that was the last day and did not look back, did not have any regrets. Oh my goodness, Pam, I forgot your original question.
Oh no, I was going to say, you're totally fine. When did you make your decision to travel the world while you were doing this?
Yes. Okay. So March 3rd was when I quit and I decided, or not decided, but I discovered, you know what? Teaching is I'm a teacher. I am at my core a teacher. It's the gifts that I was born with. I love learning. I'm very curious. So I was like, how can I use my gifts of teaching? Now, women have always been a passion of mine. I have 3 sisters. I come from a matriarchal family, a very self-sacrificing mom, lots of close female friends. And I always empowered them, always like getting them to see their own worth. I would often dub myself the women's biggest cheerleader because I just want women to thrive. Because when women thrive, communities thrive, families thrive, the world thrives. So when I left teaching and I was like, I'm going to become a coach. This is how I'm going to use my teaching talents. I'm going to help women. This is what I'm going to do. I could do it here in the safety of my mom's home, which is where I lived, and not really risk much because I have a place, I have a roof over my head, and I could just, if I don't make it, I don't make it. And it's okay because I'll have a safety net. But I didn't want a safety net. Because I knew that if I had a safety net, I wouldn't go 100% in. Mm. And so I wanted to remove that possibility. I wanted to remove that safety net. I wanted to really fly. And so I told my mom, I think I'm going to, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to leave Canada for good. I'm going to get rid of all my stuff. I'm going to start my journey in France. I don't know if that's where I'll end up. I don't know if that's just going to be one stop. I'm not really sure, but I really feel like I have to do this from ground zero, like not even be in a familiar environment. I don't even want to be in a country that has the same currency. Like I don't want anything to be familiar. I don't want anything to be safe. She looked at me like I was crazy.
I bet.
I don't know how many of your listeners are Latinas, but like a Latina mom is pretty much, you're going to be with me until I die. I'm going to have a house, and all my children are going to live with me, and we're just going to live happily ever after. Like that's
mom. I love it.
Yeah, that's mom. And that's like in my culture, that's all she knew, right? That's how she was raised, and that's how she raised us. So it was very scary for her to hear me say that. And it was actually really scary for me too, to say that, because I was the first one leaving the nest. I was the first one doing something like quitting her job, doing something different, letting go of all of her possessions, shrinking it all down to one suitcase and one backpack, and leaving. And so my mom was the only one that thought I was crazy, or the only one that was scared for me. My sisters, my friends and families were like, okay, you just quit your job in March. Now you're leaving in April. Like, what?
Right. What's going on?
And yeah, what's going on? But I was like, I need to do this, not just for the women that I'm coaching, but for myself. Like I need to show myself what I'm capable of. I want to let go of those limiting beliefs that kept me like in fear and stuck to a job that I didn't love. I mean, sure, I eventually quit, but there was a period there where I wasn't sure that I was going to. And so I really wanted to just get rid of all of that and start something new, somewhere new, and just to prove to myself and show myself again, home is wherever you are, Sarah. And you're going to be great no matter where you go. And I love you. I've got your back. It's you and I until the end. And there's no one else I'd rather be on this adventure with. And that's, it took me some time to get there, Pam. It wasn't those were not the words coming out of my mouth in April.
Oh, I bet. I was going to say, what were the words coming out of your mouth in April?
Oh my gosh. In April, it was a bunch of coddling and soothing my family and friends and reassuring them that everything was okay, that I was okay, that this isn't like a mental breakdown. But I actually learned something really interesting in that moment, because really they were just mirroring my own fears, right? That's what people are. Your relationships are all just mirrors to you. And once you see that, then you can really start to receive the gifts that the universe is giving you through your interactions via your relationships. You get glimpses of fears that are so deep in your subconscious that you didn't even know were there unless they were reflected to you. So when my mom and my sisters were like really scared and what's going on and are you okay? And then I was turning around, soothing them, explaining, saying like everything's okay. Really what that showed me was, Sarah, you have fears. Like they're just mirroring your fears. And when you soothe and coddle and justify and explain and have people understand your life choices, it's because you are not 100% okay with your life choices. They're just mirroring you. And so I stopped that and was like, okay, I'm done pouring my energy into making everybody okay with my life. And instead I'm going to pour my energy into making me okay with my life. And it was like a light switch.
I love that. And the fact that that's like a light switch moment for you just shows the power of betting on yourself and
Exactly.
how really cathartic it can be when you do that. So you started off in France. Why
Yeah.
don't you kind of like, how long were you in France until you made your way to where you are now in Bali?
Oh, but first, let me tell you how I actually started my journey off with my carry-on only and not even my suitcase. Because that's an interesting story. Honestly, Pam, I have given up everything, right? So leading up to
Right.
leaving for France, I shrank down my belongings to literally fit in a suitcase. My life was in a suitcase and a backpack. That's all I was carrying with me.
Traveling light.
But I knew that I had to. I can't hold on to stuff. Like I need to learn
Yeah.
to let go. They're just
Hmm.
material possessions. I can get more things. Like it wasn't, that was a
Yeah.
theme. That was a theme in my life. Let go, Sarah. Let go. Let go.
Hmm.
And the universe wasn't done teaching me my lesson because I got to the airport too late and the window for the baggage was closed. And the woman at the counter was like, ma'am, you've got two choices. You can either leave your suitcase with your sister, because my sister had come with me,
Uh-huh.
and run to your gate, or you could just book another ticket in 2 or 3 days. And I was like, I'm going. It took me like
Yeah.
3 seconds to make that decision. I left my suitcase with my sister and I booked it. So I started off my journey. I'm sitting in the airplane, sweating, slightly out of breath, more anxious now because I'm like, Frank, I don't even have my suitcase to come with me. But there was also this excitement within me, like, again, you see that safety net is gone. Like, let's really see what we're made of here. And that's what happens when you get rid of those safety nets, because safety nets really are kind of like shackles in a way. They keep you tied to places, people, and things. So if you really want to make changes in your life, you got to get comfortable with letting things go, not just material things, but limiting beliefs and people, like relationships too. So that was an interesting story to tell because I arrived to France with just my backpack. And luckily, luckily like 2 slices of pizza that my sister gave me from like the night before. And I'm at the airport and trains are down, so I have to take a bus. Then I like have to get, climb like freaking 12 stories to get to this apartment that I had rented. I slept no time on that airplane. And yet I still got to France and I was like, with a smile on my face, and I'm like, let's go. Let's just freaking go.
You were
And
ready.
then I was ready. Exactly. I'm walking down the street because I had to buy underwear. I had to buy shirts. Like I had no clothes. So I'm like, okay, let's go buy underwear. Let's buy clothes. I'm walking down the street like with my stuff, and I'm drinking a water from a water bottle, and I don't put the tap on. And I'm like trying to move my purse from like one shoulder to another. And because I don't have the tap on, the water just like pours all down me. And after the day that I had, you'd think I would just like sit in the middle of the street and just cry, but I didn't. I was just like, didn't even break stride. I just kept going. That's the energy, right?
I love it. Because you were ready to go. Like nothing was going to deter you. I mean, okay, what's a little water? You just traveled across the transatlantic. I mean, it's like, dude, you're fine.
Water's not going to kill you. You're not the witch from Wizard of Oz.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so France was where I was for 3 months. I could only stay in France for 3 months because as a tourist, that's all we can do. And I didn't stay in Paris. I stayed in Paris the night because actually what I did was I booked a place like out in the country. I didn't want to be in a city. I wanted to be close to nature. I wanted to be in a quieter place. So I rented from Airbnb this wonderful like farm, like a studio attached to a farm. And that's where I was for 3 months, building my coaching business, embodying my masculine energy. So many firsts for me in France. And it was beautiful that I started this journey in France because it's actually where I lived in 2011. That was my first time living abroad, and it happened to be in France. So it was just a beautiful full circle moment for me. I'm so happy I had that chance.
I was going to say, what was one of the biggest things that you learned in France about yourself and how this journey was going to go for you?
I would say the biggest thing I learned about myself was I am capable of going after what I want. You know, when you're in the rat race, as I like to call it, as what everybody calls it, but kind of what you're saying, you go to college, you get a degree, you get your job, but those things are not really what you want. They're just what you think you want or what other people want for you. So this experience for me was probably the one thing that I so desperately wanted and that I needed to work for really hard. And that was, I really did show myself what I'm capable of manifesting, of creating, of building for myself when I put in the work.
I love that, because I think of like, this is like, that was your tip off point of this big journey that you've been on. So for you to have that moment and have that realization, it really does signify the beginning of something great coming for you. How did that tee up your next location? Because I'm assuming your next location was that Bali, where you are now.
Yes, it's where I am now. And I'm so glad that the dog is quiet now. I live, I don't know if you'll be able to edit out a dog barking, but it's so common here. Like there are lots of
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sure. It's okay.
So it's almost inevitable.
You're in Bali. Who cares?
Right? So my next, so after France, so when I was in the plane in France, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go next. I don't know. I'm only here for 3 months. And I started to, old Sarah started to creep in, and she likes to plan. She likes to organize. She likes to know where her life is going. She likes to have the next 6 months planned out, or a year or whatever. So the old Sarah was kind of creeping in, beyond buying underwear and clothes. I was like, okay, where am I going to be after France? And I always ask the universe to guide me. Like, tell me where you need me to be. Where am I to go after? I was in the plane, and then this Julia Roberts, George Clooney movie was an option. And I freaking love that pair together. So I was like, obviously I'm going to watch it. And it took place in Bali. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I asked the universe for a sign. There was my sign. I'm gonna play it safe though, right? I'm not going to make any decisions, because in 3 months, who knows what my life is going to be like, and who knows, right, what the universe, because things are always changing. Just because, the universe says this is where you're going to go doesn't necessarily mean in 3 months' time it's where you're going to go, because things are always shifting.
Right.
So I lived those 3 months in France, and actually a month before, so 2 months in, I was like, okay, now I need to start thinking about where I'm going to go. Let's see if it's still Bali. I'm not really sure. So I had a new moon circle with some women that I host via Zoom. And we were talking about what it is we wanted to manifest in the next 6 months. Now, since arriving to France, I had gotten more into yoga because I didn't have my Peloton. I didn't have my weights. There was no gym. So I'm like, okay, I want to be active still. And yoga has always been recommended to me from my therapist. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I've got no options here, so I'm going to do yoga. So I got more into yoga. And so for this new moon circle, and we were talking about what we want to welcome in, what we want to manifest, I was like, you know what, ladies, I want to be able to like do those really cool poses in yoga. The ones where, your arm is like under your leg and you're bent in a weird pretzel, and then they're not breaking a sweat and they're holding it. I want to be able to do that. And so I put that out there. I was like, I'm just going to put that out there. This is what I want to welcome in. I want to welcome in more yoga. I think I want to do like a yoga teacher training. I want to like really, but not because I want to teach it, but because I'm doing it for me. So like 24 hours later, I'm on Instagram, and it's like, yoga teacher training in Bali, come do it. And I was like, okay, universe, I'm listening. All right. Okay. So we're going to Bali. This is what's happening. So it was like a full body yes for me. So what I like to tell women is, it's right for you when there's like nerves and excitement, right? That's when and it's like, you can't stop thinking about it. And you're like, oh, I'm a little bit scared, but like, I want to do it. That's how you should do it. Like, you absolutely need to. So I had that, and I kind of checked in with myself. I'm like, is this a full body yes? Yeah, it is. So I booked the yoga teacher training, And it was in August, and I was like, okay, well, I need to leave France July, so I'm just going to go to Bali, and I'm just going to be there until the yoga teacher training starts, and like we'll see how it goes. Like beyond planning my flight and my Airbnb, I've got nothing else planned for Bali, and it has ended up turning into a beautiful adventure of conquering fears. So France was, let's build the business. Let's embody our masculine. Let's go get it. Let's be that entrepreneur you never thought you could be. Let's start and let's pour our energy into that, which was great. Because I mean, it was either that or eating baguettes all day, and I could eat baguettes all day, but I was like, I'm going to build my business.
There's nothing better than French bread and French butter. I don't care what anyone says in life. It is the best, literally. And it will not make you sick. I don't know what it is. It just does not make you sick. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say that I'm going to debunk that myth, because in 2011, when I lived in France, I was living my best life, like no consideration for calories. And I gained almost 30 pounds.
Really?
Which is, yes.
How?
Yes.
Because I mean, with the amount of walking that you have to do there, or maybe it's just me, because I'll be honest, when I went, I could not figure out the metro system. So I literally, if I wasn't in a cab, I was walking. My first night there, I walked probably 10 miles because I got lost.
Wow. But I mean, I freaking love Paris. So like I wouldn't mind getting lost for 10 miles there. You know what? I also did a lot of walking. So when I came back home and I stepped on the scale, I almost had a heart attack. And I'm like, well, Sarah, it makes sense. I mean, you have been treating yourself every day in every country you've been in. So like it wasn't a huge surprise. It was a shock still. So this time around, I was like, okay, Sarah, we've learned we're not going to eat baguettes every day with butter and pastries. We're gonna be a little bit more mindful, right? So that was
I respect it, but again, it's hard because I'll be honest, like and especially now I'm thinking in Bali. I mean, the food is the freshness of everything must be just like so good.
Okay. So France was like, let's be an entrepreneur. Let's build our business. Let's like connect with women. Let's start getting our coaching like programs up and running. It was a very masculine energy. Go, get it. That was France, and I loved it. Bali is like, okay, let's enjoy life a little bit. But also it was actually a fine balance. It is a fine balance between pleasure, fun, and conquering my fears, right? Conquering my fears. So when you say, Bali's like fresh and the food is great, it is. And it's so cheap here. So like a salad that would cost me back home 10 Canadian dollars was like $4 here.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was, so I was like, you mean to tell me that I'm eating quinoa, avocado, and kale and chickpeas and like this delicious vegan salad. I'm eating it for $4. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
So I've been really enjoying the cuisine here, but also have been conquering a lot of fears. My fear of the ocean, my fear of heights, my fear of driving a motorcycle, which they call a scooter, but it's not. It's a motorcycle.
I was going to say.
In crazy traffic. So for me, it was really important too to show women how to conquer their fears, and I wanted to like live that. I wanted to be the example. So I was like, okay, Sarah, if you're going to encourage women to follow their hearts and their passions despite their fears, then you got to be doing it too. So
absolutely,
that's what Bali has been for me. It's just been this wonderful like pleasure and, enjoying the food and the sights and the weather, but then also
conquering,
doing the work. Yeah, doing the work.
I love that. This might be a little premature, but actually, you know what? I'm going to save that. With everything that you've been doing, because like you said, you were really going to get it in France and setting up your business and establishing where you are now. And now you are conquering fears in Bali. How are you nourishing yourself? Like, how are you keeping yourself sustained emotionally, going from with so much change so quickly?
I would say it's thanks to all the practices that I've put in place before this journey even started. So when I was like in January, when I was like, I can't do this job anymore, which threw me for a big loop. It was like, if I'm not going to teach, then what am I? What am I going to do? And who am I?
Right.
And I had a lot of anxieties, a lot of fears around it, as I mentioned before. And so I put in place, also, I worked with a therapist, I worked with a coach. I set up some really good habits of self love meditations, spending time in nature, meditating, journaling, going within, healing the wounds, setting up boundaries. Like I've been working really, really hard before I even started this journey. And I'm so glad I did, because you really need to have a solid foundation in order to be successful, because life is going to throw you huge curveballs when you make all these changes, right? Things are not going to go like you planned them to go. And you need to be okay no matter what happens. And so I continue to this day. Every morning I wake up at 6 a.m. and I meditate for 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Then I do yoga for 45 minutes.
Mhm.
Then I journal, and then I do something creative. I'll draw. My drawing is not the greatest, but I try really hard not to get onto my screens really early in the morning. This time, like the mornings, are to connect with me,
Mhm.
to connect with Sarah, to connect with little Sarah, right? The little Sarah within me who is scared with all of these changes, who is like, Sarah, you're the adult and you are driving this train like into a mountain. What are we doing here? Like she's scared, but she needs to
Right.
know that everything is going to be okay and that I've got her back, right? So those are the things that I put into, that I continue to practice every day. And I have lots of solitude. Like there's lots of time by myself, because not that I'm going to say you shouldn't travel with people, but there's something different about traveling with someone versus traveling on your own. And when you're on your own, you really do connect with yourself on a deeper level, because now you're like in an unfamiliar setting, new experiences, and you have to figure out how you're going to move in this world, how you're going to communicate, how you're going to nourish yourself, how you're going to take care of all of your needs, but that you need to learn how to do that for yourself.
Yeah. And I totally agree. Solo travel is life changing, and it definitely shows you how strong you are, but also the areas that might need a little bit more love and tenderness so that you can navigate
Yes.
through. So I totally respect it. And I'm glad that you're putting those practices in place, because I can imagine as you're building your business, it's a lot of pressure. Obviously, you want it to be successful, but at the same time, you're also wanting to make sure that it fits with this person that you are now.
Exactly. Yeah, and I actually did a post on social media about what your purpose is really meant for. So you were born with gifts that are not of this world, and I categorize them into 4 categories: teacher,
Okay.
healer, caregiver, or leader. So I'm a teacher. And like I said, those gifts I was born with, they weren't given to me. And no amount of certification or schooling is going to give me those gifts.
Mhm.
So when I say that I'm a teacher, it's because that's who I am. And so when I created this business, I created it because I wanted my gifts to work for me. I want to create a business where I can shine, where my gifts can be really infinite and I have an infinite amount of energy. But the only way to do that, and this is great advice for your listeners too, is that you need to have the courage to use your gifts on your own terms. That means you decide who you work with, when you work, how you work, and how much you charge. That's the only way that your gifts are going to be sustainable, like the life that you want sustainable, and also how you're going to create a legacy in this world. I was creating a beautiful legacy as an educator, but that's not where my gifts truly were meant to shine. So now that I'm creating this life for myself, it is like I could coach all day, every day. I love, love, love connecting with women. But I also do it on my own terms and on my own time. Like, you think as a teacher, I could say, okay, hold on, world, while I meditate for 40 minutes, yoga for an hour. Like, I have to
Right.
wake up at
No.
3 a.m. to do that, right? I have to wake up so
Yes.
early in order to fit in all. And that's what we do, right? We sacrifice our own well being. In favor of our jobs, in favor of our children, of our families, or our responsibilities, and then we fall to the side. And so it was so important for me to create a life that was on my own terms.
Yeah. And I love that. And I love how you are incorporating that into your business. And it's a great pivot, because when you are like working obviously with women, like, what is the main goal of, incorporating you into their life? Like, how do people engage you?
You mean like in my work? Like, how, when you
Oh,
see
yes, in your
engagement?
business. Like, how would they
So,
engage with you as a part of their coaching? Mhm.
right. Yeah. So I connect with women, and like I said, I've dubbed myself women's biggest cheerleader from the get-go. So
Right.
I'm always showing women what is possible if they work for it, right? Because they have to do the work. And a lot of the time when I connect with women, I'm like, what are your goals? Like, where do you see yourself in 3 4 months? And they'll share with me, their goals. I want to quit my job, or I want to travel more, or I just want to be happy. I want to learn how to love myself more. And I'm like, those are beautiful goals. I love them. What are the biggest obstacles for you not achieving that goal today? And so these are how conversations go. I prompt them to dig a little bit deeper, to do the work, and for them to realize like where their obstacles lie, what stops them. Sometimes they're like, man, I've never talked about this with anybody before. I can't believe I'm opening up to a complete stranger. But I like to think it's because I give them the safety to do so, but I also encourage and empower them to be honest. I always thank them for their vulnerability. And I always leave them with like a tidbit, an action item that they could do. I'll share with them my self-love meditation, which is so freaking powerful. And so they'll often, sometimes they'll say thank you, and that's all I have. That's, I don't hear from them again. And then other times they're like, okay, let's talk about this more. Like, because I'll say, like, let's hop on a call. Let's talk about how you want to lose weight. You want to lose 20 pounds. Let's talk about it. And it doesn't matter if their goals are personal or professional, because really the foundation is their own self-love, is their relationship with themselves. If their relationship with themselves is not strong, then it's going to be hard to achieve any goal they want in any realm. So this is why it doesn't matter if you're married, if you're single, if you have kids, if you're, 25 or 45, it doesn't matter who, that none of those things matter. What matters is your relationship with yourself. And so that's why I engage with women from all over the world, from all different walks of life, because self-love is, you're never too old for it. And it doesn't see color, it doesn't see culture, it doesn't see profession, it doesn't see socioeconomic background, it doesn't see any of that. Self-love is a universal thing. And my goal is to help all women love themselves so deeply that they have the courage to go after whatever it is that they want, and know that they always have their own back, and that any obstacle they come across is either a detour or it's just a hop over that obstacle and we keep going.
Yeah, I like that, because I think coaching isn't like a one size fits all kind of thing either. And it sounds like in your practice, people can customize what they need in that particular season that they're in, which I think is really great. Are there other aspects of your coaching business that you're going to be bringing online? Just kind of getting a sense of like where you are right now with it and what you have coming up.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you asked that, because this is something that's coming through for me in the last, I want to say, like 48 hours.
Okay.
So it has become clear to me that my journey of Eat, Pray, Love is over, and it's not going to continue, which is interesting, because I think the last time we spoke, Pam, I was like, I'm going to Vietnam after, and then I'm going to go to Thailand, then I'm going to go to India for Diwali, and then I want to see the Northern Lights in Finland. But what I forgot to tell you, and what I forgot to tell everybody, was I got a visa to go to New Zealand. And it was one of those clear signs from the universe that this is where I needed to go. Now, because I got the visa, and it's like, you've got a year to step into New Zealand. And then from there, that's when your visa starts. I was like, oh, I've got lots of time before I go to New Zealand. So that's why I jam-packed my schedule sort of with other places that I wanted to go to. But as I started to, the last 48 hours, I was kind of like, okay, what are we doing here, Sarah? Are we just going to travel indefinitely? Or are you going to go after the dream, the big dream, the reason you left Canada? Because I left to coach women, but it's more than that. It's, I want to have a sacred piece of land and create a wellness retreat where I've got a farm and animals, and women are going to come to me, and we're going to do healing retreats. That I want to leave a legacy behind. I truly do. And working one-to-one is great, but I know that working in a group with community is going to be that much more powerful. And that was always the goal. But I sort of lost sight of that because I got so excited about traveling and my own Eat, Pray, Love journey that I lost track of that. Even when the universe gave me a very clear sign, New Zealand is your next stop after Bali. It's your next one. Yeah. My friend, before I left France, she sent me this. If you're under age 35 and you're Canadian, it's so easy to get a visa to Australia or New Zealand. Now, New Zealand was always on the bucket list, so I applied. And right before I click pay, I was like, okay, we're going to take a step back. Universe, give me a clear sign that this is where you need me to go. And then I left it. The next day, I went to this beautiful, small town on the water, and I was eating at a restaurant, right? The intention was to eat at a restaurant by myself because I had never done that before. So that was another thing on my bucket list was we need to get comfortable with our own company. So we're going to eat lunch at a restaurant by ourselves. So I'm at this restaurant at the door, and this lady in front of me wants a drink, but she wants to sit at a table by the water. And the gentleman said, sorry, you can only sit at a table if you're going to order a meal. So she turns back to me and she asks, are you going to have a meal? I say, yep. She's like, do you mind if I sit with you? I just want to have a drink. I'm like, no problem. So we sit down. She's like, you know what? I actually quit drinking and I quit smoking a while ago, but we're selling our family home and I'm just really, really sad. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to smoke. I'm like, don't worry about it. We get chatting. So she's learning about me. I'm Canadian. I left home. I'm traveling. And she goes, oh my gosh. Do you know what country I flippin' love and would move to if I could? And I'm like, no, tell me. She's like, New Zealand. And so in that moment, I just smiled and I was like, it's so funny. And I tell her the story, how I applied, but I stopped right before I clicked pay because I asked for a sign from the universe. And she goes, well, I guess I'm your sign. And I said, I think you are. And so I went home that day and I paid. And within 4 or 5 days, it was congratulations, you got your visa for New Zealand. And so that was the clearest sign I have ever gotten on this journey of where I need to go. Bali was also a clear sign, but this one was like the heavens really opened up and sent me this woman basically. And because Bali was through George Clooney and Julia Roberts and then through Instagram.
Right. This one is actually someone that you know. Yes. It's
right? This one's in the flesh.
Right.
So yeah. But because I've been I don't want to go to New Zealand when it's cold. I want to go when it's warm. So I'll go in December. So let me fill up my calendar until we get, but really that's just ego. It's your ego being now it's not the time to settle down, Sarah. You've got a long life to live. Go travel, go experience, let's experience things. Let's live a little. And I got caught up in that. And I lost sight of what it is that I'm trying to build here. And so the past 48 hours, I've been actually doubling down on my meditation, on my yoga, on my journaling, really connecting with myself because I'm going to New Zealand after Bali, I've decided. And this is it. I'm going there and I'm settling and I'm going to build on my coaching practice. I'm going to continue with one-on-ones for the next little bit, but the goal is to have group coaching and then to offer wellness retreats where women are going to come and we're going to like a week of deep diving into the swamp of our fears, of our subconscious, and we're going to heal. Because I really want women to heal, and I really want them to have the courage to feel courageous enough to go after their dreams and to live their purpose.
Wow, that is going to be amazing. And I'm so excited for you. That is awesome. New Zealand, I've heard, is so beautiful. And I can only imagine what type of journey that you're going to go on. So you'll be in Bali do you think for a little while longer? Or do you think it might be actually a little bit shorter than what I'm thinking?
So my yoga teacher training ends September 14th. Initially, I was like, well, I'm going to live in Bali until like my 60-day visa limit is over. Like, I'm going to really go to the end here because I love it here. The weather, the food, the vibe. But now that I got confirmation that this is where I'm going to go, I know that staying for those extra few days again is just ego. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to leave like when my teacher training is done. Wow. I'm not going to, it's time. So that same energy of like, I'm ready, let's go. That same energy when I left Canada is kind of the energy that I'm feeling right now for like, it's time to move forward with this dream that I have for myself and for women.
I love how you're just letting the universe guide you. And that kind of makes me think as we get into, normally at this part of the interview, I always start to ask people like rapid fire, like random questions. Right. So I'm sure, I can't remember, I think when we were talking in our pre-call, you did have a word of the year. What was your word of the year? Do you recall?
Oh man, no,
I thought you mentioned it. And if you don't, that's cool. Because I was going to say, do you feel like right now, if you were to look at where you are in your life, what would your word of the moment be? Because I feel like you're more of a word of the moment versus word of the year kind of person.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. The word of the moment, I'm going to say is depth.
Why so?
Because like I said, in the past 48 hours, I realized that I wasn't going deep enough. I wasn't remaining deep enough within myself. It was a lot of shallow things, and that's not bad. It's where I was. And, I loved taking a surf lesson to conquer my fears of the ocean. I loved, climbing down a cliff to conquer my fear of heights. I loved taking a scooter lesson, which is really a motorcycle. I loved those things, but they weren't really deep enough. They were shallow things. And so it's hard, I'm not going to lie, to sit with yourself for 40 minutes in silence, meditating. It's hard to wake up at 6 a.m. Mind you, the roosters here help wake me up at 6 a.m. So that's not the hard part. But the hard part is getting out of bed and doing this routine of journaling, yoga, meditation, coloring, getting in touch with my inner little Sara. That to me is depth. It's deeper, and it's not something we do enough because we're so busy conquering fears, taking surf lessons and going down rock mountains and learning how to scooter drive. And so depth is my word.
I like that. And I could definitely see it because it seems like the deeper and deeper you go into this journey, the more that you uncover about yourself and where your true purpose aligns. So I think that's beautiful for you. I always like to say that music is like the soundtrack of the moment, like of our lives. And so if there was a song right now that could sum up your life, what would it be?
Oh my goodness, Pam, you're asking me like such hard questions. Especially because I'm like, okay, I want to be cognizant of time here because like this is a difficult. Music is a big one.
Or is there one that's like right now that you kind of just play to kind of that helps you channel depth? Is there anything that like inspires you right now musically?
Musically, so Yes, I would say so music has a frequency. I think it's hertz. I only know it as HZ, but I'm going to say it's a hertz for anybody
Okay.
who,
I think
who
so. Yeah,
maybe
I think you're right.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So, yeah, I've been in the past 48 hours listening to music or sound that is at 174 hertz
Okay.
because while I do love music, it's distracting. So I can't I can't get deep when I'm singing to Spice Girls or when I'm singing to Lauryn Hill or when I'm singing
Right.
to like Spanish music. And I love music, but it's another distraction for me. And so I'm trying to kind of separate distraction. So I would say the music I'm currently listening to that's helping me reach those depths is currently 174 hertz, but there's lots of different frequencies I just haven't explored, but I will get to.
Oh, very cool. And I never really thought about it like that because I know some people say that they can't listen to like music when they work or whatever. Like for me, I actually thrive in it. Like give me an Excel spreadsheet and definitely a good like hip hop soundtrack. Like I can bang out some formulas and stuff really easily.
Yeah.
But I understand like in this case, you're trying to focus distraction and words are distracting. So I'm assuming like I think that I've heard of people listening to just like more of a frequency behind like an undercurrent. Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I like that. I've never really thought about it from that perspective. Okay. I have 2 questions left for you.
Let's do it.
Okay. First one. What is one thing that you would want my audience or anyone to know about you that you have not said today?
That Pam gives really hard rapid fire questions that are not rapid at all.
I hope not. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So in my connections with women lately, boundaries have been a really difficult thing for women. It's probably the obstacle I come across the most when dealing with women, and it's a hard one because we are raised not to have boundaries. We are raised to believe that boundaries make you mean, that boundaries block intimacy and connection. And I'm here to say that that's utter bullshit. I want you to understand that how people may feel about your boundaries does not trump how you actually feel without boundaries. When you have no boundaries, you are more anxious, you're more fearful, you're more insecure, you question your worth, and that needs to stop. And the way you stop it is by having boundaries. Now, setting boundaries is difficult for all of the reasons I mentioned, but maintaining them is even more difficult because there's so much pushback that we are made to believe that boundaries are not effective or that people won't respect them. And so we drop them. So I want all women to understand that boundaries help our relationships, help us show up who as we truly are, and helps foster connection, because instead of arguing and resenting people all the time for not respecting your boundaries, you can love on them more when you do have them and you enforce them and you just maintain them. So please, please, please do not believe that because people don't love your boundaries that they're wrong or that you're not doing it right or that maybe you shouldn't have them, because people are not going to love your boundaries because it's not convenient for them. But that does not mean that you should not have them. You absolutely must, for your own peace of mind, for your own joy, your own happiness, your own purpose, your own self-love. You need to have them.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you. And then my final question is, dear, how can we find you? How can we support you?
Oh, I would love that. You can find me on Instagram at Walk the Forest with Me. The name is an interesting story, but I don't know if we have time for it. Or you can follow me, or I have a website also, walktheforest.ca. And those are the best ways to get in touch with me and to see my content, to see what I'm all about. And I would love to connect with you.
Oh, yeah. And definitely, I am very curious about the Walk the Forest. I was going to say, why don't you give us an abridged version of it?
Oh my goodness, I'd love to. So when I was discovering that teaching was not going to be where I ended up, I was thinking about, okay, let's go back to what I loved about lockdown, what I loved about my childhood, what I love about life, and it is nature. I had a puppy, and we spent every day in the forest, every day for like at least an hour. And when I was in the forest, I felt so deeply connected to myself, to my pup, to the trees. And so, and that's when I would channel so much wisdom from the forest. Mm-hmm. So I started a website, and it was intentionally meant to just be a website where I would just blog and maybe like share pictures. And then I thought, okay, I'm playing too small here, and I want to do something bigger, which is how I got into coaching. But I stuck with the name. I didn't change it to like Sara Stanco Coaching or Sara Coaching. Mm-hmm. I kept Walk the Forest with me because whenever I'm in the forest is when I feel so connected to all that is and to truth. And it's when the most inspiring and wonderful, amazing ideas come to me. When I was in France, because I lived out in the country, I would spend time in the forest every single day. And I would often film reels and stories because right then and there, just this beautiful idea would come to me, and it was just so peaceful. It would just come so peacefully to me that I was like, I need to share it with people. And so I kept it because walking the forest is going to be part of my program, part of my retreat for wellness and healing, because nature is just your mirror. It mirrors all that you are, which is beautiful, which is perfection, which is everything that you are meant to be and everything you wish you could be, you already are, because it already is. And nature is the way you see that, because nature is perfection. It's already everything that it is. Every part of nature is living its purpose beautifully. And so that's why I kept Walk the Forest.
I love that. And I think that is a perfect way of ending, because I personally was thinking you are walking the forest with people by sharing your journeys and giving them inspiration and coaching and development. So I totally see how everything aligns. The universe is aligning as always. So love it. I want to thank you for taking this time with me to sit down and chat. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I wish podcasts were 2 hours long because I feel like we can just keep going.
We can. Totally. So that just means that I have to have you back. And as your journey continues to evolve, I would love to do that. So I will definitely have her back, everyone.
Oh my gosh. I would love that. And this time it'll still be international. It'll be in New Zealand.
Absolutely. So definitely we're just going to keep going and going. Okay. I'm totally down for that.
And for all your listeners, I have to say, women, I tried to get Pam to come to Bali so we could have like an Oprah moment, so that, kind of like how Oprah does her interviews in her garden in Hawaii. I was like, Pam, you got to come here and we'll just like hear the monkeys and the birds and the roosters in the background and we'll just have our Oprah moment. She wasn't down for it, but no, she was, but there's just more, it's not as easy.
Yeah, I would have had to like drug my mom and bring her across the world in order to make that happen. And just for this trip, it just wasn't going to work out. Timing was not going to allow me to do that. So, but the future, it is a possibility.
Yeah. Totally New Zealand is going to be great. I don't know if you love Lord of the Rings, but we could just do like a Lord of the Rings.
I've always wanted to go. So I've heard it's just a stunning.
We'll do a live podcast in the Shire and we'll make it video. So we'll just be one of the Hobbit holes.
Absolutely. Yes. Totally. And so we're putting it out in the atmosphere. So I'm totally believing
Yes,
that it
we
will
are.
come to pass. And so I'm really thankful, and I'm thankful to you guys for listening. I will have all of Sarah's information in the show notes so that we can follow, and share with you. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of the weekend. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will talk soon. Bye.